How does an electric SUV travel more than 620 miles on a single charge? Not a sedan built for aerodynamics, not a stripped-down commuter car chasing efficiency records, but a full-size luxury SUV loaded with batteries, motors, and enough horsepower to embarrass a sports car. That number sounds like a typo. It sounds like the kind of claim that should come with an asterisk the size of a billboard. And in some ways, it does. But the fact that a company can even put that figure on paper and have regulators sign off on it says something bigger than one vehicle's spec sheet. It says something about how fast the ground is shifting underneath the entire auto industry. The vehicle at the center of this story is the Denza N8, built under BYD's premium new energy vehicle brand. Chinese regulatory filings confirm a battery pack as large as 130 kilowatt-hours paired with a claimed range of up to 623 miles. A smaller battery option, at roughly 106 kilowatt-hours, still delivers close to 500 miles. Those are not typos. Those are the numbers submitted to China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, the agency that has to approve a vehicle before it's allowed to go on sale. So before anyone accuses this of being marketing fluff, understand that this figure isn't just a press release boast, it's a regulatory filing. But here's where the story gets more complicated and more honest. That range figure comes from a testing standard called CLTC, the China Light Duty Vehicle Test Cycle. It's the metric Chinese regulators use to certify range, and it involves a lot of low-speed, stop-and-go driving that flatters an electric vehicle's efficiency. The EPA test used in the United States is far more aggressive, with higher speeds, harder acceleration, and climate control running the way real American drivers actually use it. In practice, vehicles tested under CLTC often see real-world range drop by 20 to 30% once they're driven the way Americans drive, especially at highway speeds. So 623 miles on paper might translate to something closer to 450 or 500 miles in the real world. Still enormous, still segment-leading, just not the number on the sticker. So how does a vehicle get anywhere close to that kind of range in the first place? It's not just a bigger battery bolted to a bigger car. Engineers are squeezing efficiency out of every layer of the vehicle. The battery chemistry itself, lithium iron phosphate cells arranged in what BYD calls its blade battery architecture, packs energy densely while staying structurally strong enough to double as part of the car's chassis, saving weight elsewhere. Aerodynamics matter more than people assume. Every fraction of a percentage point shaved off a drag coefficient extends range at highway speeds, which is exactly where EVs lose the most efficiency. Regenerative braking recovers energy that would otherwise be wasted as heat, feeding it back into the pack during ordinary city driving. And the electric motors themselves, whether in a single-motor rear-wheel drive configuration producing nearly 500 horsepower, or a triple-motor all-wheel drive setup pushing close to 1,200 horsepower, are tuned to run at their most efficient operating range as often as possible, not just their most powerful. None of this is happening in isolation. It's happening because the Chinese EV market has become one of the most brutally competitive manufacturing arenas on the planet. BYD isn't just racing legacy automakers, it's racing a swarm of domestic rivals, all fighting for market share in a country where EV adoption has already crossed the tipping point that most Western markets are still approaching. Every few months, a new competitor announces faster charging, longer range, or a lower price, and the entire market resets around that new benchmark. That pace of iteration, launching updated platforms annually instead of every 5 to 7 years, is something most legacy automakers built around longer product cycles and more conservative capital investment simply aren't structured to match. Now here's the harder question. Does 600-plus miles of range actually solve the real problems holding electric vehicles back? Not entirely. Charging infrastructure in the United States is still inconsistent, with reliability issues that no amount of battery capacity can fix. Charging time still matters more than range once you're on a road trip, because drivers stop for convenience and comfort, not just because the battery is empty. battery degradation over years of use, cold weather performance in northern winters, and the simple economics of manufacturing a car with a battery this large all remain real constraints. A 600-mile battery is also heavier and more expensive to produce than a 300-mile battery, and that cost eventually shows up somewhere, either in the sticker price or in the manufacturer's margin. Which raises the strategic question underneath all of this. If Chinese manufacturers can build vehicles with this kind of range, at price points that would be difficult for Western automakers to match once currency and tariffs are set aside, what happens to the advantages that companies like Tesla, Toyota, Volkswagen, Ford, and General Motors have spent decades building? It's not that any single model erases those advantages overnight. It's that the pace of improvement itself becomes the threat. When a market moves this fast, being 6 months slower to update a battery platform can mean falling a full product generation behind. There's also a psychological angle worth sitting with. Is 600 miles of range something drivers actually need, or is it a number designed to make range anxiety disappear entirely, the same way gasoline cars never had to think about range because refueling was fast and universal? There's a real argument that manufacturers could achieve more consumer benefit by investing further in charging speed and charging network reliability than by continuing to stack on battery capacity that mostly sits unused in daily driving. At some point, adding range delivers diminishing returns, while better infrastructure delivers a bigger jump in real-world usability, but there's also a competitive logic to extreme range that has nothing to do with daily practicality. It's a marketing weapon, a psychological reassurance, and in some markets, a genuine necessity where fast charging still isn't reliable. So maybe the headline number was never really the point. A 600-plus mile SUV is an impressive engineering achievement. But the more important story is what it represents. It's proof that Chinese manufacturers are iterating on batteries, motors, materials, and manufacturing costs faster than most of the industry expected, and doing it in a market so competitive that standing still isn't an option. The real question for the next few years isn't whether one company can build a car that goes further. It's whether the future of the automobile industry will be decided by horsepower and luxury badges, the way it has been for a century, or by which manufacturer can make electric vehicles efficient and affordable enough that the entire idea of range anxiety simply stops making sense.